Hey everyone, it's LaShonda from Labors of Love, and I am here with another Therapy Thursday. So, I'm actually on vacation in beautiful Puerto Rico, but this message is so good, I had to take a pause for my vacation to give it to y'all. It actually uh, came to me when I was talking to one of my clients, and in the midst of saying this, my client and I both were like, "Ooh, that's a therapy Thursday." So I want to talk about lessons from Zoom, and I think we can learn a lot of life lessons from the time we have spent meeting virtually. So, as a person who does therapy, workshops, trainings, all kinds of stuff on Zoom, there are a few things that I really appreciate about the platform that I think can apply to our regular everyday lives. As the host of a Zoom call, there are many things that I can do to make sure that my session or my training or my workshop runs smoothly. One of those things is I can admit who I want to, and I can deny access to who I want to. And the interesting thing is, someone can show up in the waiting room. So, one, I can enable a waiting room. All of these lessons are really about boundaries. Okay. Y'all know I love talking about boundaries. So, first of all, I can establish a waiting room, which means people don't get direct access. First, there is this point, this contact point that they have to enter for me to make a decision about whether or not I want to admit them. Y'all, we can establish waiting rooms in our lives, right? People don't have to get direct access to us. And in some ways, this is like what caller ID did to transform communication. When you see who's calling, you can decide whether or not you want to engage with that caller at the moment. So once someone comes into the waiting room, I do have to I have to trust that the name that shows up is who is actually there. Sometimes someone may have a name that shows up in a waiting room and I might grant them access, but then you get in and you find out it's not actually who you think it is or who they said they were. But there is a fancy little feature in Zoom where I can remove someone from a Zoom call. Sometimes we let people in our lives, we ask them for their opinions, we invite them into conversation, and then we find out they're not who they said they were, or we're not who we thought they are not who we thought they were. And we have the ability to not continue to engage if we don't want to. Another beautiful, beautiful feature of Zoom is mute. Now, I want to be cautious because I never want to silence someone. However, I have Zoom set where when you come into a Zoom call with me, you're automatically put on mute. But how many times have we been on like a Zoom call and someone comes into a meeting, they don't know that they're entering, there's a lot of background noise, they're doing all these things. They're not intending to be disruptive, but they are. As a host, I can mute everyone or I can mute a particular person. How many times in our life do we sometimes just need to mute somebody? Right? It's not that we're trying to kick them out of our lives. We're not even trying to remove them from the situation, but sometimes we just need quiet. We don't need the distraction or the interruption. So what would it be like if you establish a mute for yourself where you go, you know what, for right now, I'm cutting off all the voices. And for the main part, this isn't even usually people outside of us talking. This is our internal dialogue. Most of our self-talk is not even ours. It's adapted. And we've adopted it and adapted it so it sounds like ours. So what would it like if all that self-talk is going on, particularly the negative self-talk, and you just hit mute? You just went, you know what? I need quiet right now. Another beautiful feature about Zoom is you can get a co-host. When I am doing a workshop or a training, I often have someone who's a co-host because my attention is usually delivering content and engaging with participants. So I don't want to get distracted by having to admit people who are coming in or answering those questions. So a co-host can be helpful. Who in your community, who in your healing circle, who in your life can you ask to be your co-host that can remind you sometimes when you need to hit that internal mute button? who can remind you that everyone doesn't have to have access to you at all times. Right? So these are some beautiful things about Zoom. The other thing is, there's so many features. I like that sharing, that I can share what's going on with me, but I can also allow other people to share. So it's not always one-sided. There are so many things I think we can learn from the platforms we've been using. And I know I use Zoom, but a lot of these other platforms are similar. WebEx and Google Meets and all of these different things. So all I'm saying is, I am a person who believes we can glean wisdom and lessons from everything in life. And this is just one I wanted to share with y'all. So if you got other stuff and you're like, oh, what about this? Please share it. I love to hear from people. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out through my website, www.thelaborsoflove.com. We're on all the major social media outlets, so feel free to drop us a line there. Don't forget to head over to YouTube, where all of my Therapy Thursday videos are housed, and the podcast, y'all. If you haven't already rated and reviewed it, please do so. We're on all the podcast platforms. All right, y'all. I'm going back to vacation. I'll see you soon.